Welcome, community. Jemima here from Tongue and Tonic. Lovely to connect with all of you. So, this third session, we are looking at our shadow self. What does that look like? What is it? How do I understand it? These are all really important questions. Has anybody considered their shadow self? What does your shadow self, how is your shadow self represented to you? I'm going to talk about a little bit about how it's represented for me. And then if you resonate with that, great. Take that information in as a reminder or a spark to help you on your journey for your own self-discovery. If it doesn't resonate with you, let it go. Maybe that information is to pass on to someone else. You never know. It's important to accept and then release rather than I'm blocking everything, taking up all my energy to block that. The easiest thing for block is just to turn someone off if they're online. Switch it off. Let the energy of the electronics do that rather than utilizing your energy. So when I look at my shadow self, I specifically see it as, first of all, the shadow is just simply a grayness of your light. So my ultimate light is my soul aspect of my light, my link to source. So from light then disseminated a little bit and created its own light aspects, which is what we do when we reproduce. A part of us, part of our light, a part of our genes are then transferred to our children. And that's how we are all connected. So source, we're all one big family essentially, but we're just a light family. We're all here. We're all connected. Popping up. We're all here. We're all connected. So with that connection, when our spark comes into us when we're born, that's our soul entering into our body. That is our light aspect of ourselves. In order for physicality to occur, we must have darkness. We must have an element of physical matter. Our soul is etherical matter. In order for the soul to be housed in a vessel, you need a physical aspect. That aspect is that darker energy creates physicality. And I learned this from Kimberly Gogan. So thank you very much for that, because when I heard that, I was like, that's right, that's the missing piece. That makes complete sense to me. So I wonder if it makes sense to you. Does it make sense to you? That's my question to you. That's the first thing to take note. Does that make sense to me? That my vessel or my temple is an aspect of my shadow, is the light that is sort of taken on form, which means it's gotten darker, darker, darker until it's become a physical mass. So our vessel is our shadow self. So when we are going through deep emotions, that's etherical energy. But if we sit in that emotion for a long time, if we're looping, we're overthinking it, we're in the loop, we can't get out of the loop. What happens to that energy? Is it just released? No, if you're looping, you're holding on to that energy. Where's that energy going to go? Where would it go? It would go into our body. And so niggles, body pain, the body sort of alerting you of something. Oh, maybe you've got a bit of fungal infection over here. Maybe you've got a bit of digestive concerns over there. These are simply emotions that we've looped on, and then put into and they've become a physical aspect of self because we've put heavy or negative energy into that loop system. We've created it into a physicality, and Chinese medicine explains this very well. That's where damp comes from. And we see that and Chinese medicine has manuals written about how you're receiving an emotion. The emotion becomes the toxicity element to yourself, and then it transforms into something else. Physical matter, physical dampness is your most obvious one that it transforms into, but you're also looking at body pains, body aches, some type of disharmony that keeps coming up. These are simply emotions that we have looped on. We've given a physical mass or physicality to them. So therefore you would claim that as part of your shadow self. It enters into your being and is held in your being. When you may not have pain, but you may have a heaviness through your being and you never feel like you have enough energy. Or maybe when you walk, you simply feel a lot heavier than you are, even though you might be a light framed person. When you simply look at people sort of, you're just sort of witnessing people walking down the street, it simply, it matters not whether someone is carrying weight or not carrying weight by how they walk. Their gait or the way they're walking, quite a heavy person can be just bouncing down the street because they're so incredibly joyful and they look light. But your physical perception is, oh no, they are heavy. But that, it doesn't make any sense when you really think about it. That's outside of common sense. And then you can see a very light person walking along the street and they're trudging down streets like life is going to take them out. Yeah. So even though they're physically light, their emotional, internal narration that's going on is heavy. It's created a darkness. It's created a physicality that sits over them like a cloak. And their way through life is very heavy, very sort of stoic and heavy. And then potentially when you start to speak to them, you'll understand that, or they're sitting on that more negative aspect of themselves. What they're telling themselves is terrible. The way they're speaking to themselves is horrible. So this is all can be quite obvious when you sit in your witness position and you're sitting just witnessing people. We're not there to judge anyone. We're simply accepting people and witnessing people, because when you witness people and you sit out of judgment and you're sitting in your acceptance, you can then reflect that onto yourself and look at yourself. Do I walk that way? Am I walking very heavy? What can I change about myself if I'm feeling like I'm heavy all the time? Well, then simply looking at your emotions is your key aspect for your forward movement in that mode. And then once you realize I am very heavy, I am giving myself a hard time, I am sitting in my judgment. How do you move through that? You've got all your possible tools to move through. You've got mantras because you need to change your conditioning of what you're saying to yourself so that you can let go of continuing to put this heaviness through your being. You can start to sort of change your conditioning so you can start to release or simply not gather anymore. What's your aim as well at this point? So the digestion and understanding of what you are doing to yourself, taking responsibility. When we are looking at our shadow self, it's also a key moment to step into self-responsibility. Not taking responsibility for others, simply taking responsibility for self. Key for your forward movement. Once we begin to take responsibility for ourselves, we can get out of our loops. Let's go to our loop, because everybody moves into a loop. Everyone. In order to shed your heaviness that you may carry around with you, the quicker you come out of your loop, the less heaviness you're going to be carrying through your being. When we carry a lot of heaviness through our being, it also makes manifestation a little bit more difficult. It honestly makes life a little bit more difficult when we're carrying around a lot of heaviness through our being. And the aim, or my aim in life, is to sit in peace and flow. What is your aim in life? So what are you striving towards? And that may help you come to terms with your shadow self and help to recognize what tools you may need in order to move through your shadow self and lighten your shadow self. So your shadow self then simply becomes your ultimate temple that you take care of, rather than a temple plus a blanket plus a couple of weights plus the actual weight of the world that you're carrying on your shoulders. So how do you want to walk forward? How do you want that to be for yourself? It's a good question. All these questions are very important. And if you would like to be your own guru, you need to be self-reflective and you need to be asking yourself these questions. And once you have answered these questions for yourself, then you can simply share that information that you have gained from you. So rather than telling people what to do, sharing your own journey and then being an inspiration. And if you're not inspirational for people because they have a different goal, that's okay as well. It's good to be okay with that. It's good to accept yourself. And it's good to be proud of where you're going forward, and whether that's helpful for your friend group or not. It might be helpful now, it might be helpful in the future, it may be helpful for their friend that they pass on in 5 years' time. It might just come to them. So continue to share, continue to be happy with yourself, that gentle contentness that you have for yourself, rather than I need everybody else's opinion, so I need to tell everyone. And then when I get positive feedback, then I'll walk forward with that. It's going to be awkward, because then you're seeking energy outside yourself in order to feel whole, in order to sit in your light, in order to feel okay. And that's really the opposite of being your own guru. You're seeking okay from everyone else, and then you're stepping forward with that. If you seek it from the inside, I seek happiness from within, I seek acceptance from within, then you truly can walk forward as being your own guru and then an inspiration to others. I did meet a couple of people who have aspirations to be other people's guru. That is, again, seeking energy from the outside. It's not seeking energy from within. It's not seeking the answers from within. It's seeking outside appreciation, outside acceptance, anything that you're seeking outside of yourself rather than allowing it into your space. It's a difference. I'm seeking outside myself. I'm reaching out, and I'm sending my energy out, hoping that it's going to land somewhere and then hoping that it comes back to me. Opposed to, I feel good in myself. I feel great, actually. And I welcome in that energy from others if they're in a space and I have been inspirational to them. I welcome that energy in. Oh, you look great today. Oh, you're doing a wonderful job. Oh, that was very helpful information. Thank you. And for me, it's not my be all or end all when someone tells me that I'm doing a good job. It's simply that moment where you're like, oh, it's good to get that feedback. Thank you. I was having a good time with myself, and I was very pleased with myself, and that was just the icing on the cake. So I'm really, really grateful for your feedback. Okay, so when you're sitting in that space, that's a great space to sit in. It's a really productive and it's a forward movement space to sit in. Are you in that space? Can you get to that space? The answer is always yes. And that takes a little bit of hard work and responsibility. And that's amazing, because then that heads you into self-expansion. Where do you want to be in life? Are you ready to expand? Are you sitting in your acknowledgement? Or are you seeking out your tools? Or are you truly just stepping in and you're in the moment? Where are you in your moments, in your forward movement? Have a think about that as well. Each information will resonate with different aspects of the self and different aspects of the learning and growth forward. Sometimes if you listen to things again a couple of times, you'll find you hear or receive different information, or it sparks different memories for you to bring into yourself. So if you do feel you resonate with some information, people that I resonate with, I usually listen to about 3 or 4 times what they've got to say, and then I'll sit forward with my forward movement, because how are we to remember everything that everyone's saying as well? And we mostly all speak on different levels, just like when you go to a kids movie, you still receive a lot of information as an adult, which the kids just went over their head. And that was cool, because they're enjoying what they've received from it. And that's very important, to just sit in your receiving and your enjoyment of things as well. So when you're in your loop, let's address the loop, because we all get stuck in the loop. We've had an interaction, we're trying to decide on something, and we're and you just like, you try and distract yourself, you try and watch TV, you're listening to something, you're reading something, and then all of a sudden you're zoned out, you're in your daydream, back in your loop. How do you get out of your loop? It's actually It is easy to get out of your loop, but it does take practice. This works for me every time. If you are feeling to share what works with you, we're absolutely interested. We're absolutely here to help everyone. And sometimes what's helped you will help a large amount of other people as well. So do feel free to share. We're not here to tell people what to do. We're here to share the information that we have to see what resonates with others. Because you can only really tell yourself what to do. Telling someone else what to do is taking away their free will and choice. And that's we're in the crystalline, and taking away other people's free will and choice is really a navigation outside of what is appropriate in this forward movement of this timeline. Okay. You're in your loop. Go and look at yourself in the mirror. Eyeball yourself. Let go of anything that's happening on the outside. Look deep into your own eyes. Give yourself some eye gazing time. Connect deeply with yourself. This might take a long time for a lot of people. Keep practicing this till you get to the point where you can steadily eye gaze with yourself. Once you've got your eye gazing down pat, it's good to practice with others, but the main person that you need to practice with is yourself, because we need to love and accept ourselves. We need to communicate with ourselves in order to decide what programs, conditioning, philosophies that we will take on for ourselves that are positive for our being. So once you have connected deeply with yourself, I forgive you. It's very simple. Your forgiveness is your doorway out of your loop. You imagine all the doorways and you're on your loop, and all the doorways are locked and you're not able to get out. So you're in your loop, everything's locked. Oh, I'm in a room with no windows or doors. Deeply go, forgive yourself, eye gaze with yourself, forgive yourself. Imagine your door, walk through your door. Yeah. Come back to the loop, come back to the mirror, because you're in this moment where you're stopping what's going on. And by ignoring ourself, or the deep connection that we have with ourself, which is through our eyes, we stay in the loop. By addressing it with yourself, it's like when you need to address something with someone, you're avoiding. So refusing to look at yourself and speak to yourself in the mirror is that same avoidance pattern with others that you're not addressing with others. Are you someone who walks up to someone, connects with them deeply, and simply addresses what needs to be addressed in order to clear the air? That's what you're doing for yourself. You're stepping up to the plate, you're stepping up to the mirror, you're addressing it with yourself, and you're clearing the air. Have whatever conversation you want to have with yourself. Repeat the circumstance in your calm. Make sure you're in your calm. As you go through the circumstance, what would you have said? Say it to yourself. Enact the scenario, scene, the possibility with yourself in order to then move forward out of your loop. Forgiveness, forgive, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you for everything that you've done. I acknowledge that it happened, and I forgive myself, I forgive you. I'm stepping out of the loop. Once you step out of the loop, decide what you would have done differently next time. You can also lock this in. As we start to address these things with ourselves, pain will start to go. Your body will start to come back into harmony, because what you're doing is you're taking away those onion layers of your shadow self. You're letting them go. So that pain, stagnation, disharmony, dysfunction, dysregulation will start to just evaporate through your being. If it came in as an esoteric or an etheric energy into yourself and then it became physical, you have the ability to reverse that and send it back out again. There may be some other things that you can change within yourself once you have addressed the emotional becoming the physical, and really creating those blockages and really contributing to your shadow self. when we make low vibration decisions or choices, these also contribute to the energy within us. We can't change those. We can't delete them. If we keep thinking about our past mistakes, we're just going to compound and create heaviness. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for what you have done. Forgive yourself from where you have been. Forgive yourself for anything and everything that you need to. After you have forgiven yourself, to change your patterning, to change your conditioning, then we step into what kind of mantras are you going to give yourself? What kind of affirmations are you going to give yourself? How do you want to behave? So the acknowledgement and taking the responsibility that your actions, intentions, and the tools that you use can change, will change, and have the opportunity to change as you step in. Continuing to make the same mistake over and over and over again, forgiving yourself over and over will keep your body clear, but it's going to trap you in a circumstance of an inability to grow. If that's where you're at, if that's all you can do, and if that's all someone can do, we have to accept them. We have to accept that that's where they're at. You may then make the choice for yourself that you may spend less time with that person. You may slowly move out of the time that you spend with that person, or making the space. Can be honest, or you can just wait for them to get to where they're going. The key is, I accept you for where you're at and what you're doing, but for me, your actions just keep repeating. So I feel that you're in a good place for your forgiveness. But I keep seeing the actions repeat and repeat, and I feel that I'm on a different journey. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time over here going in this direction. And that's okay. Everybody's moving at a different pace. No one's going to, or some people may move at a similar pace to you. And sometimes you're like, oh, this is my best friend, and we all move at the same pace. And then all of a sudden something happens and they move at a different pace. It's okay. It's simply okay. Everybody is here for their own expansion journey. Accept them for who they are. Accept them for what they're stuck in. If you can accept them and you can forgive them, it may help them to forgive themselves. Because if you're already sitting in that space, in your forgiveness and in your acceptance, it's easy to sit in that energy for someone else. And when you're showing someone else that you have an ability to do that for them, it sometimes helps them to get there as well. So that's how you can assist others in this adventure or the journey. So the other aspect of the shadow self, and we will go into the shadow self quite a lot through, we do the mantras, the affirmations, doing oracles. I mean, everything really ties together. Nothing is a single topic. Everything is intertwined, just as our energy is, just as our body is, just as, well, everything is connected. It is all unified as one. Separation is a human conditional experience. Can you take that out of your human conditional experience? I hope so, but maybe you're not ready, or maybe you enjoy that aspect. Who knows? Everyone's accepted our differences are what makes us interesting, which is wonderful. So your other aspects, we come to the shadow self that was created to house our spiritual or etherical being. So our spiritual or etherical being is housed in our chakra system. So our largest vibration in our whole being comes from our heart chakra. It's just spectacular. So wearing, I don't know if you can see, but I've often got crystals, and it is a wonderful place to have a crystal over your heart chakra area. It helps with your vibration, it helps with your permeation, and it helps you to step into whatever program you've put into your crystal to assist you in your forward movement. So your physical being is the shadow self that you were born with. It's something that you chose. So you can change. You can also program your body. If your body's doing something you don't want it to do, set the program. Your essence or your spiritual light flows through your chakra systems, but it also is housed in your plasma. The universe is mostly made up of plasma. This is where source energy is housed in. Your plasma is in your blood. I'm not sure if you have seen, scientific experiments where they take the blood out and then they spin it. A couple of you might have had plasma just injected into your joints, which helps with joint recovery, pain, arthritis, inflammation, past injuries. Also helps to build the energy or physicality of the energy in that area, because plasma holds your light. Plasma holds your being. So your blood is very powerful, and blood's been used. If you look at spells or witches, blood holds your essence, and it is true. It does hold your essence. It is very important. So it's very important for you, and you have the ability to activate or put positive spells on your body. I spell my digestion to work fluidly. I spell, my head to always have clarity. That's as we move into the mantras again. So we'll come back to that, back now to the body. So we can put all these beautiful positive affirmations into our body. We can start to tell our body what to do. The last aspect of that is what are you physically doing for your body? And this can be done through meditation. You can go for a run in meditation, and studies been done. It is true. It is a fact that your muscles will start to build up or have the ability to function like you have been exercising, like you did the physical aspect of exercising. So if you're unable to, or feel that you're not ready to start running yet, and you really, really, really want to be a runner, start running in a meditation. That will help and prepare your body, and you'll be able to then step into that aspect. If you feel that, oh, my body feels good as I'm running, but I didn't work up my lungs, go back to the meditation, work on the expansion of your lung energy, work on the flow of oxygenation that comes through your body so that you feel prepared to start running. Food as well. Whatever nutrition you are putting into your shadow self is the care that you're taking of your shadow self. The more care that we take of our shadow self in terms of positive aspect, if we're putting a negative aspect of care, I'm feeding my temple junk food. It's not going to function as well for you, because is it really kind to put it in your mouth and then have your digestion digest it and have all those living enzymes and aspects that live in your body that are alive? Is it really kind to them? Are you being deeply kind to yourself? I'm not saying be a martyr by any stretch of the imagination. I personally love chips. I think chips are great. And when I eat chips, I say, to myself, I say, this is my treat and I'm going to enjoy it. It moves through my body quickly, and I pull the nutrients out that I need, and everything else flows through my being and it comes out as waste. So that's what I'm telling myself while I'm eating chips. Now, when I'm eating, really healthy food, good job, I'm putting it in my, good job, body, you're doing such a good job of pulling all those nutrients out. Thank you. I'm grateful for you. I have gratitude for the nutrients that are fulfilling my whole being. So working on your shadow self requires you to look at not only the physical aspect of what I'm feeding myself, but also the etherical aspect. What is coming? What programs have I got running in my mind? What energy am I sitting in? What emotional space am I sitting in? Because that we're also feeding ourselves our emotions. We also need to digest them through our body, and we're either releasing them or holding them, and that's creating stagnation. So with your shadow self, how are you treating your shadow self? What do you feed your shadow self? Are you kind to your shadow self? Are you kind to your body? Do you tell your body that it's doing a good job? Do you have gratitude for yourself? Do you forgive yourself if you have a little bit of a wild weekend? Are you sitting in your forgiveness, or are you berating yourself? Are you giving yourself a hard time? If something goes wrong, well, it's because I did this to myself. Well, that's stepping into a level of being quite judgmental and quite unkind to yourself. Is that truly what you want for yourself? as we start to accept our shadow self, as we start to take responsibility, navigate, and step into our forward movement to make sure that our shadow self is comfortable, is being treated well, and has kindness, we then step forward and our flow happens a lot faster, a lot faster. So one thing at a time, forgive yourself. If you step beyond your boundaries that you've set for yourself, be careful about being too rigid. Is it kind to be very rigid with yourself and only allow yourself that one square of chocolate? Is that necessary? What is kind to you? For me personally, moderation is kind to me. I like a little bit of indulgence, and I'm okay with that. I'm not judging myself. What I do find interesting is sometimes I step into that indulgence and people will reflect that they will reflect from their self. Oh, well, I thought you were healthy. Why are you doing that? And it's like, that's what you're thinking for yourself, because I'm okay with it. And and I often say, oh, well, I like to be moderate. I don't like to be extreme. I like to, be kind to myself and sit in my flow and sit in my middle space. If your perception of me that I am very harsh with myself, that's simply a reflection on how you're treating yourself. And I for myself, I feel fine saying that because I accept who I am and I'm not judging anyone. I'm just simply coming from my own acceptance. And then I'm letting you know that I'm actually okay eating that bit of chocolate. I'm actually okay having those hot chips occasionally when it feels right for me. I'm okay if I need to have a doona day and I need to stay in bed all day for my own mental headspace. I'm okay if I want to do a bit of binge watching on TV. I'm okay if I'm not able to get up and be perfect and make my kids lunch. I'm okay with that. I've spent a lot of time getting to the point to be okay with that. Are you okay with those things? Are you happy with your shadow self? Are you feeding it in a positive way? When you feed your shadow self in a positive way, it starts to become lighter. So your shadow self can be very dark, or it can be just simply a grayer version of your full light. What is it for you? And how do you get to a point where you feel most comfortable? Because we can only be the best version of ourselves every day. We only have that capacity. You cannot be someone else that you've chosen to be in the future today. You can only be the person that you are today. And that also requires forgiveness, because if we've decided we want to be somewhere and we're berating ourselves, we're again like stabbing knives into our shadow selves and creating another shadow on top of our already physicality shadow self. So we're giving ourselves a darker aspect. Do you want to step into that darker aspect? One more thing to note is that as we are on this crystalline existence, this crystalline timeline, there is a lot more light coming to the earth. There is a lot more light. So what that's doing is it's making it more obvious where our shadow self is sitting and how we're digesting that and how we may be perceiving other people's as well. Remember, perceiving other people's shadow self is simply a reflection that you're judging yourself. It's a mirror again. Come back to yourself. What does your shadow self look like for you? Looking out to seek out the answers, or judging someone is energy going outwards. Where do you want your energy? If you want to be your own guru, your energy has to be within. Your reflection needs to be from within. The more you take responsibility, the more other people's comments that they come at you with have less emotional charge. Like, oh, you think that about me? Okay, that's interesting. Thanks for letting me know. It's a good opportunity for me to see how other people are witnessing me. And that often, I think, oh, that doesn't really resonate with me, but I can understand where you're at. And that's given me an understanding of where you're at. And if you would like, I can help you. I can help you because I understand where you're coming from. So this is also very important. So this crystalline timeline, this light codes that are coming onto earth. It really is shining a light in every aspect of darkness within yourself that potentially you've kept hidden for a long time. As we start to release these darker aspects of ourselves, it will start to awaken our gifts, because if you have chosen pathways to add a darker shadow to yourself, when those light codes came in, some people it's been awakening their telepathy, some people it's been waking their empathy, some people it's been just like a light bulb of recognition of, oh wow, now now I can really see very clearly how I treated that person, and I'm sorry for that, and I apologize. There's a lot more apologies coming from people, which is so beautiful, and it's important to take that on board as well when you receive that apology, to accept that, oh, that person has finally reached that point where they've looked at it, they're starting to take responsibility. This is a wonderful, wonderful space. I wish them all the best. I accept you for where you are. Yeah, so you're coming back to yourself, and I accept me. I've taken responsibility for myself, and I'm actually doing really, really well. Thank you for that as well. So very important to address the shadow self, very important to accept your shadow self. If you do have that reflection of, oh, wow, there's actually so much darkness that I can remove within me. Great. Sit in that acknowledgement. It's not a sad moment. That's a fantastic moment, because you've decided to step into your own personal growth, your own challenges, your own expansion. And you can only go up from that point. So if you can acknowledge where you're at and let it settle and sink in, and then choose to wake up every day as a better version of yourself, you will do this. You will expand. Remember to give yourself a break, not to ride yourself like, like you're in a race. It's not a race. Life is not a race. Life is simply a journey of expansion to be done at your own pace. The shadow self, and looking at that and moving forward, creating the lightest version of yourself that you can, is also to be done at your own pace. And it's nice to connect with people who are in the same mode as you, and on the same journey as you, that may be for a long time or a little time. I accept that. And I move forward. A self-acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude for yourself are your forward-moving pathways to lighten up your shadow self. Your shadow self, broken down, is simply your vessel. Treat your vessel well. Acknowledge your emotions. Understand your emotions if you need to, or simply change them over, recondition yourself, and move forward. How does that look for you? However you digest that or do that, we can break that down at a further date. But what is important is your self-acceptance. So I'll leave you with that note of self-acceptance. Take care, forgive yourself, and step on in. Signing off.